Some Democrats think, want, and are pushing Mike Bloomberg to run for president.
Some Democrats?
That's right, some Democrats. So
What's
according to a
some
report,
Democrats?
well, I'll try to tease that out. So according to a report in the New York Post and several follow-up articles, some New York Democrats who really don't like Hillary Clinton, but clearly, I guess, are marginally to the right of her, don't want a politician that will be overly friendly to Wall Street. They just want a literal arm of Wall Street in the White House, have been agitating Mike Bloomberg to get into the race. And apparently, according to this New York Post report, Mike Bloomberg's considering it. He says, he hasn't said anything on the record, but some have said that he is open to the idea. It wouldn't be a problem for him to re-register as a Democrat because of course, Mayor Mike has been a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent, and now would need to become a Democrat again in order to run against Hillary. So, let's just think about why this is happening for a second. And then we'll do the Bloomberg voice. The reason why this is happening is twofold, and it shows us a lot about the state of our present politics. So number one, on a very basic level, if there is even the most cursory interest that someone like Mike Bloomberg expresses in running for president, and he commissions, say, a few polls as an example, or a few focus groups, guess what kind of money some Democrats, who I'm assuming are, certainly in some cases, are probably consultants who don't have a client yet. That's a pretty nice check just for stroking a guy's gargantuan ego.
Yeah, man, you should totally run.
Oh, seriously? Honey, I really do want to buy us that second home upstate. I got a brain. Let's tell Mike Bloomberg he should run for president. Guy will pay us hundreds of thousands of dollars to commission some polls. Done. So that's the small world motivation. And I think Alex Porine put it, it's basically a couple of millionaires flattering a billionaire to get some extra millions. Absolutely. Then, of course, there's a guy like Michael Wolff who wrote another kind of delusional column about this. And then there's the thing of like, well, it's a good idea to flatter Bloomberg if you're in a journalistic career. And in which case, I would just like to add as an addendum here, I think Mike Bloomberg has an incredibly impressive business record, and I really respect the work he did on climate change and public health in New York City. I actually do. But that said, now the second reason is even more ominous than just some hustling going on. Second reason is that there is, like, if you look at the reading in these articles, some Democrats tell the New York Post that they're concerned that Hillary is not popular enough to win a general election against Republicans, and that people still just don't really like her, and they need a Democrat who will speak out to independents. Now, if you take a poll and you look at any objective measure of American people's attitudes, I would say basically, and this is actually changing significantly, but I would say, frankly, if you looked at the politics of this show, which is well to the left and firmly progressive on social and economic policy, I would say most Americans, according to most polls, I would say this, they are probably a bit to the right of us on social issues and certainly on guns. And they are, even if they don't identify, many of them are exactly with us on single-payer universal health care, breaking up the banks, expanding Social Security, radically addressing global warming, debt-free college, and all of the vital things that we need to restore and renew this country. Not to mention people are, I think, actually less receptive to this crazy, overblown and inflated and hugely problematic foreign policy. So, who exactly is this constituency that a billionaire plutocrat, social liberal, far right on economics wants to entrench, if anything, inequality because he seems to think it's sort of like a natural divine ordering of entrepreneurial instinct or whatever else goes on in his head. Who exactly are these people it's speaking to? And the answer is basically no one, except for a tiny handful of people like those who sit around on the Morning Joe set who can actually book and create this content, which leads to a conversation that is so mind-blowingly delusional and ludicrous that instead of columns, I'm like, wow, look at Bernie Sanders, who incidentally is not just running a progressive and smart campaign, actually has a great record, did a great job as mayor of Burlington, has real accomplishments in the House and Senate. We have another Bloomberg fantasy piece because this small couple of hundred people, couple of thousand people, with a few zip codes in New York and maybe a couple in California, respond to this. And because of the disproportionate holds on the conversation, this is somehow treated as anything other than a delusional joke. As anything other than, if I become president, I'll ban all the soda in the world, and the poor people will crawl on the ground for my amusement.
If there's anything that I know, it's that Middle America is clamoring for a rich New York Jew to become president of the United States.
Every time I fly in my Cessna above the heartland and I see fat people wearing ill-fitting clothing, I think to myself, all they're hungering for is an emotionally distant multi-billionaire plutocrat who will take their guns away, but probably foreclose on their homes. Everybody's hungering for this. Nothing could be more popular.
Take that, big gulps.
Take that, big gulps. You want to vote for me, you slobs? I'm Mike Bloomberg. Everybody knows that I'm the best, and I think on some grand level that these middle Americans understand that they're useless slobs who shouldn't live in nice houses. When was the last time they had an idea that benefited Deutsche Bank? Losers? And then the pollster's like, yeah, it's exactly that kind of brave truth-telling that will really go over. You think you could throw my firm another $1 million for a couple of focus groups this time and not just polls that show you running at about 3%? And then the next morning on Morning Joe, it's like, isn't it amazingly brave? And excuse me, let me just wolf down another Danish. Isn't it amazingly brave that we have a multi-billionaire who's willing to run for president and say that more people should live in poverty and have less retirement security? Isn't it brave? Isn't it brave?